Salve, man of the 21st century! Have you ever thought about why you were born? Wondered whether life here on earth is all there is? Is there life after death? I'm Saul of Tarsus, scholar of law, one of the best chronicled persons of ancient history. I lived during the time from Jesus to Emperor Nero. I was Gamaliel the Great's most zealous student. My public trial took place under King Agrippa and city administrator Festus. Here you see the women and men with whom I have worked. There is no other person besides me from whom we have 7 authentic letters, written to communities that existed during this time. But first this. Have you heard of the whispering post? One person whispers something to another. The next person whispers to the next one, and the last person gets a completely different message than the first one. Perhaps you think my letters were altered through time. Were they changed during the Middle Ages by the monks? You may think that Jesus lived so long ago that we can't be sure what happened. What would help our doubt would be a 2000 years old video filming the apostles placing their hands in the wounds of the risen Jesus. I have good news. We have something even better, because a video recording can be faked. But you can't fake a papyrus. A papyrus is the type of paper used during that time. You can immediately recognize with a microscope when ink is scraped off and someone wrote something else on it. The greatest discovery before World War II was finding my letters in Egypt. They are not stored in a secret archive in the Vatican, but in the University of Michigan for everyone to see. You can view the first transcript on your mobile phone by looking up Papyrus 46. In one word, the message of the resurrection of Jesus is the central subject in my letters. I wrote it most clearly in the letter to the Corinthians. Without the resurrection of Jesus, the faith in Jesus is senseless and the proclamation of church is useless. The apostles and I would then be nothing more than liars and cheaters. The all-important question is, how can I, Saul, as a scholar of law, together with the apostles, confirm by oath the resurrection of Jesus? Immediately following the crucifixion, I didn't believe in Jesus' resurrection. I thought the apostles had tricked us and had stolen the body from the tomb themselves, from the tomb of the rich and prominent member of the city council Joseph of Arimathea. I even had followers of Jesus, including women, thrown into prison, and agreed that the first deacon Stephen be stoned to death. However, 2 incidents in the first and third year after the crucifixion totally changed my life. The first incident radically shook my heart. Jesus appeared to me. I fell to the ground and went blind. When I could see again, I immediately believed in Jesus. However, I was also aware as a scholar of law that I obviously lacked crucial evidence, because only I saw Jesus and my companions did not. Then I went to Arabia for 2 years to think and reflect. The only evidence that counted was that of the eyewitnesses, who had actually touched Jesus after the resurrection. I decided I had to go to Jerusalem and speak to the apostles there. The new tomb of the rich city councillor Joseph of Arimathea was also in Jerusalem. The enemies of Jesus said that the apostles had stolen the body of Jesus from this tomb. It was the year 34. Just 3 years after the crucifixion, when I met Peter and James the Just, 2 men from the circle of 12 apostles in Jerusalem. I was able to interview them for 15 days. That was the second important incident in my life. Finally, this was the evidence I needed. Now I was allowed to write about the resurrection of Jesus, the first risen one, in my letters. I knew from the days when I had persecuted the apostles that it was not their intention to die for their faith. The apostles actually wanted to spread the good news. lay their hands on people to pray for them, and to be able to preach in peace. Yet, after the resurrection of Jesus, they fearlessly endured all the persecution, even when they were thrown into prison, tortured and killed. A prison in ancient times was hell. Why would the apostles and even the women have submitted to such a horror if the resurrection was just a lie and deception, and there was no resurrection from the dead? And they had stolen the body themselves and buried it somewhere else. One thing was very clear to me after 15 days of questioning Peter and James. If the apostles were dishonest, they would have been fully aware of their lies and deceit. They would have known that Jesus did not rise from the dead, that there is no resurrection from the dead. Therefore eat and drink, enjoy the rest of your life, because nothing comes after death. But the apostles did the exact opposite. Every one of them, including the women, submitted to being thrown into jail, were tortured and tormented. During the following years, all 12 apostles were tortured to death. Only John survived. They would never have done that if everything was just a lie. They only did that because they saw the risen one, put their hands in his wounds, and were convinced that there is a resurrection because Jesus rose from the dead. We too will enter with Jesus into the kingdom of God in a transformed body. Only Jesus rose with his body in order to be a visible sign to the apostles. The apostles lacked courage during the crucifixion of Jesus. Only after they saw the risen one and put their hands in his wounds did they have courage. After this conversation with the apostles in Jerusalem, even I, Saul, proclaimed this good news like the apostles everywhere. Following this time, I was flogged 8 times with 39 blows and repeatedly thrown into prison. I was stoned but survived. I was continuously threatened with death until in the end I was also killed. Yet I was sure that my crown of glory in the kingdom of God was certain. I fought the good fight. I will experience full joy in the kingdom of God and will be rewarded 100 times over for all my suffering. I wish the same heavenly joys for you. Pass this good news on to all seekers of truth. Those of you who are not yet seekers of truth can still become one.